Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The restaurant, Le Prestige, shone under the subdued lights, with its immaculate tablecloths and crystal glasses lined up with almost military precision. The atmosphere exuded luxury and elegance, and each table seemed to offer its guests an exceptional experience. That evening, a wealthy and arrogant woman entered the room. Dressed in a haute couture gown, adorned with sparkling jewels and an intoxicating perfume, she walked as if the whole world should bow before her. Her heels clicked on the tiled floor, and her disdainful gaze swept the room condescendingly. A young waitress, nervous but diligent, approached to take her order. In her haste, she slightly knocked over a glass. At that moment, the wealthy woman frowned and burst out. "But seriously, are you incapable of doing your job properly? You're going to spill my dinner, you idiot." The waitress, red with shame and her hands trembling, lowered her eyes and murmured apologies, trying to hold back her tears. The customers around her looked away, uncomfortable, while the woman continued to make cruel and cutting remarks. Then, suddenly, time seemed to stand still. The woman's gaze met that of the man who had just entered the restaurant. Tall, elegant, and wearing an impeccable suit, he walked with quiet confidence. When the waitress gave him a respectful smile, something flickered in her eyes. The man approached her, they exchanged a few quiet words, and at that precise moment, the wealthy woman recognized the restaurant owner. Her haughty smile froze, replaced by astonishment. Her hands, still awkwardly clutching her designer bag, trembled slightly. A flush crept up her cheeks, as the echo of her own arrogance seemed to suddenly reverberate through the silent room. Karma had struck at the most unexpected moment. Luxury and arrogance no longer had any power in the face of respect and authority. The wealthy woman froze, unable to utter a word. Her usual arrogance had been replaced by silent panic. She had never imagined that her rude behavior could land her in such a predicament. The restaurant owner, a calm and imposing man, approached the waitress to check if everything was all right. The young woman, grateful but still nervous, nodded. Then, with a discreet gesture, he turned to the wealthy woman. "Madam, I believe you should apologize to my waitress." The tone was firm, but polite. The wealthy woman felt her face burn. She was used to people bowing before her, not being spoken to with such seriousness and composure. She opened her mouth to reply, but no words came out. Several customers watched the scene unfold around them. The silence was almost palpable, and every glance seemed to weigh on her like a judgment. Finally, with a mixture of pride and fear, the woman whispered, Excuse me. I didn't mean to." The owner raised an eyebrow, observing her closely. The waitress, for her part, slowly resumed her service, head held high, feeling for the first time that she had the support of someone powerful. The wealthy woman then understood that her arrogance had come at a price. She had believed the world belonged to her, but faced with authority and respect, she found herself powerless. Jewels and silk were worthless here. Before leaving the restaurant, she cast one last glance at the owner, who returned her with a cold but polite smile. That smile spoke volumes. In this place, true power came not from money, but from respect and dignity. As she left, the wealthy woman felt her ego bruised and a lesson she would never forget. And as the door closed behind her, the waitress caught her breath, more confident than ever, ready to continue her work without fearing the cruelty of arrogant customers. The next day, the wealthy woman returned to the restaurant. Her ego had been bruised the day before, and she was determined to show that she remained above it all. She walked into the room with the same confident stride, but this time her gaze sought to command respect through fear rather than sophistication. She spotted the waitress and, in a syrupy but condescending voice, said, "I came back to see if your boss would treat me better today, and you, be careful not to spill anything on me." The waitress looked at her calmly, her face impassive, as if she were reading her thoughts. The owner, sitting in his office next to the dining room, observed the scene from the half-open door, his expression neutral but attentive. At that precise moment, the wealthy woman didn't notice that the restaurant had installed a new VIP area, reserved for regular and influential customers. Thinking she would impress everyone, she headed towards this lounge, but a discreetly placed sign indicated, "Reserved for select clients. Please do not enter without authorization." Ignoring the sign, she walked forward. And then came the shock. The owner, who had just come out of his office, stood in front of her. His gaze, calm but implacable, froze her in place. "Madam, I think you haven't understood the rule here. This salon isn't open to everyone, not even those who think money can buy anything." The wealthy woman felt a lump in her throat. The regular customers, who had witnessed the scene, stifled laughter. Her face turned scarlet. For the first time, she understood that her money and social standing were powerless against the dignity and authority of the landlord. Humiliated and helpless, she slowly stepped back, involuntarily bumping her chair, and murmured a weak, I understand." The owner, without another word, returned to his office. The waitress, who had witnessed the scene, gave her boss a discreet smile, a feeling of justice and respect filling the room. The wealthy woman left the restaurant, this time for good, with a heavy heart and her pride completely shattered. She had learned a lesson that money and power can never buy. Respect is earned, dignity cannot be sold. A few weeks later, the wealthy woman reappeared at the restaurant, this time with a carefully planned strategy. She had heard that the owner was hosting an exclusive charity event that evening and thought it was her chance to regain prestige and respect. Dressed in her finest gown and surrounded by her entourage, she entered the restaurant with a calculated smile, hoping to impress everyone. But as soon as she crossed the threshold, she realized she was not welcome. The owner, immediately recognizing his arrogant attitude, calmly approached. "Madam, we are delighted that you are interested in our event, but the invitations are strictly personal and non-transferable." The wealthy woman confidently produced her forged invitation, but the owner took it delicately and looked at it with an icy smile. "I'm sorry, but this invitation is invalid. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." At that moment, the entire restaurant, including the VIP guests, realized the deception. The murmurs turned into stifled bursts of laughter. The woman, red with anger and humiliation, tried to protest, but her words were lost in the mocking silence of the room. The waitress, who had witnessed the entire scene, stepped forward and, in a calm but firm voice, declared, "Sometimes, madam, money isn't enough to earn respect. Perhaps this lesson will serve you better than any dress or piece of jewelry." The owner held the wealthy woman's gaze one last time, then returned to organizing the event. The rich woman left the restaurant, this time in utter humiliation, while the waitress and staff exchanged satisfied glances, proud to have witnessed justice served elegantly but definitively. At that moment, the moral became obvious to all those present: arrogance and pride always crumble in the face of respect, authority, and dignity. Karma had struck 3 times, and the rich lady would never forget this triple lesson.